Your phone buzzes. Before you even read the message, some part of you already knows. Something's wrong, and you're about to fix it. A sibling's car broke down on the highway. A friend's relationship imploded at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. A coworker missed a deadline and is quietly panicking 2 cubicles away. You haven't even opened the text yet, and your body has already shifted into problem-solving mode. Shoulders tense, jaw set, mind already 3 steps ahead, mentally rearranging your evening around someone else's emergency before you've confirmed there even is one. You don't remember applying for this job. Nobody handed you a title. But somewhere along the way, you became the person people call first, not the person they call eventually when they've exhausted their other options, but the very first name on the list. The one who picks up on the second ring. The one who says, "Okay, tell me what's going on," in a voice that's already calm, already organizing, already 3 steps into the solution. And here's the part that never quite gets said out loud. The strange thing isn't that they call you. It's that some quiet, tired corner of you always expected them to. You'd have been more surprised if the phone hadn't buzzed. This isn't just being responsible. Psychology calls it something else entirely. And once you hear the term, you'll probably feel a small, uncomfortable click of recognition. It's not a personality trait you were simply born with, the way some people are naturally chatty or naturally punctual. It's a role. A job description that got handed to you long before you were old enough to read the fine print, let alone negotiate the terms. And like every role a child inherits instead of chooses, this one comes with 3 things nobody warns you about. An origin story you probably never examined, a cost you've been quietly absorbing for years, and a gift buried underneath all of it that you've likely never given yourself credit for. Go back far enough and you'll usually find a household that needed a steady hand and simply didn't have one available among the adults in the room. Maybe a parent was stretched across 2 jobs, arriving home too depleted to manage another crisis. Maybe there was addiction or a slow-motion divorce or a chronic illness that quietly rearranged everyone's role in the family. Maybe it wasn't even one dramatic thing, just a low, constant hum of instability that never had a name. Somebody had to notice when the lights were about to get shut off, or when mom's voice had that particular edge to it, or when it was safer to just handle things quietly than to ask for help that wasn't coming anyway. And if you were the oldest, or the most observant, or simply the kid who happened to be standing there when it mattered, that somebody became you. Psychologists call this parentification, when a child takes on adult-level emotional or practical responsibility well before they're developmentally equipped for it. The term was coined by family therapist Ivan Bazarmeny-Nagy in the 1970s, and the research since then has only deepened the picture. Studies published through the Journal of Family Psychology and Child Development have tracked how children in this role often develop what looks, from the outside, like precocious maturity, remembering everyone's schedules, managing younger siblings, reading a parent's mood shift before a single word is spoken. Teachers called it impressive. Relatives called it a blessing. So mature for their age, they'd say, usually with a kind of relieved admiration, as if a 10-year-old running emotional triage for the household was simply a nice personality quirk, rather than a job nobody should have had to do. But here's the thing that gets lost in the compliments. You weren't praised for noticing everything because it was cute. You were needed for it. And a child who is needed learns very fast and very deep in the nervous system that being needed is a far safer position than simply being seen, held, or taken care of. Being needed comes with a role. Being seen comes with vulnerability. Guess which one a scared kid picks? That early training doesn't vanish the moment you turn 18 and move out. It just changes clothes. People like you tend to become the default contact in every group chat. The name that comes up first, automatically, when something breaks, whether it's a flight cancellation, a family argument, or a friend's 2 a.m. crisis. You struggle to physically relax in a room where someone else seems tense, even if that tension has nothing to do with you and nothing you can actually fix. Walking into a party where the vibe feels slightly off is somehow more exhausting than doing actual work. You also tend to over-prepare for situations other people walk into casually, triple-checking travel documents, arriving 15 minutes early to things that don't require it, keeping a mental inventory of everyone's stress levels like some kind of unpaid emotional weather service. Somewhere in you, being caught unprepared once felt genuinely dangerous, not just embarrassing, and that memory never fully updated its risk assessment. But here's where it gets interesting, because the fingerprint shows up in stranger, smaller places too. You're often the one who remembers everyone's birthday, their coffee order, their kid's name from 3 years ago, but you'll forget your own dentist appointment 3 times in a row. You give advice easily, generously, almost on autopilot, but the second someone flips the question back, "Okay, but how are you doing?" you feel a small internal stall, like a program that doesn't have that function installed. You can organize a genuine crisis calmly, in real time, while your own unresolved stuff sits patiently in a mental drawer you keep meaning to open and somehow never do. Here's what this quietly costs you year after year without ever sending an invoice. The ability to need something without it feeling like a personal failure. Psychologists sometimes describe this pattern as chronic overfunctioning, a nervous system so calibrated toward responsibility that rest itself starts to register as unsafe, even irresponsible, like you're getting away with something. Some researchers connect it to what's sometimes called the parentified adult profile, where the original childhood role hardens into an entire adult identity built on being the reliable one, the capable one, the one who doesn't fall apart. And here's something that almost never gets said out loud because it doesn't sound like a real problem. A part of you is exhausted not by the responsibility itself, but by how invisible it's become. Nobody applauds the load-bearing wall. People notice, loudly, when something falls apart. They rarely notice the quiet, ongoing effort of the person making sure it doesn't. That kind of exhaustion doesn't look like burnout from the outside. It doesn't look like struggling. It looks like someone who simply got it together, competent, unbothered, endlessly available, right up until the moment they very quietly aren't. But here's the other half of this story, the part that rarely gets said with any real honesty. That same wiring built something genuinely rare. Research on resilience in children who carried early responsibility consistently points to elevated empathy, sharper crisis-calm decision-making, and an almost unnerving ability to read a room before anyone in it has said a single word. As adults, this often makes them the person others instinctively trust when things actually fall apart. Not because they demanded that trust, but because they've been quietly earning it since they were 9 years old. You didn't lose the ability to be cared for. You traded an early, unfair version of it for a kind of steadiness most people never get the chance to develop. The specific, hard-won calm that shows up exactly when it matters most. That's not nothing. That's a skill most leadership seminars try and largely fail to teach grown adults for thousands of dollars. The shift here isn't learning to care less, or building some cold emotional wall, or suddenly becoming the kind of person who doesn't answer the phone. It's learning that letting something be someone else's problem, even just once, even just for an evening, doesn't make you less reliable. It makes you human, which was always the actual job description, before the responsible one role got layered on top of it. So next time your phone buzzes and that old instinct kicks in before you've even read the message, try pausing half a second longer than usual. Let someone else answer first, just this once. You'll survive it. So probably will they. And that emergency from earlier, the one your whole body already started organizing itself around, it can very likely wait 10 more minutes than you think. If that hits somewhere specific, you're probably going to connect with the next video too, because being the responsible one and feeling guilty every time you finally rest come from the exact same place. Click to find out why.